I saw this small squib in the Daily Cal that said, "Women's crew forming, meet at this gym at this time." I thought, that's interesting. It wasn't casual. It wasn't just a club. It was these two coaches, these two graduate students who coached us, Art Sachs and Carl Derlicka Jr., had both rowed as lightweights and were fiercely competitive and both loved the idea of women rowing. I didn't know what I was doing, but I started coming and it became unthinkable not to go. We worked out 6 days a week. We couldn't get on the water 6 days a week. So when we couldn't get on the water, we'd run around campus and do bleachers. And once you got into a boat and out on the water, it was very lovely. And there was nothing to do but sit in that seat and learn how to maneuver the oar. And it was like my first real spiritual practice. It was how to be in one place and do just this and nothing else.
It was such a great experience for me. And it's interesting how that was just really a year and a half of my life, but it has impacted me so much. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And what struck me is, like with those 8 girls in the boat that I raced in, that varsity boat the first year, I didn't know too much about their background stories. And like I said, I left campus and came home to my house. I didn't have much of a social life at Cal, but you feel after you all the blood, sweat, and tears that you go through together training, you feel that you know something really deeply about their core of those people, and that you can depend on them, and that they've got your back, etc. So I found that really interesting, how close you get, even though I didn't know details about them, and had only known them for that year. You feel so close, and you've gone through so much together. I don't know where else you get that kind of bonding that's so strong, that's very about deep values that the people have, that you feel like you know them.
The way I found my way to rowing were a couple of things. I was a freshman sitting across in the dining hall from a guy who had a men's crew shirt on. It just said men's crew. And I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Oh, it's rowing." He goes, "You'd be good if you lost a little weight." And I had taken a yoga class and it was in Hirsch Gym. And there was the women's gym, Hirsch Gym, gorgeous building. And in the hallway, there was a poster about crew. The poster of the men's 8 in a sunset under the Golden Gate Bridge. And that was the picture of men's crew. And I was like, that looks unbelievable. And then I saw the boat somewhere along the way. Dig had a boat in the quad, saying, "Hey, do you want to come out for this?" And so there was a video or showing or something, and I went there, and that's where I saw Kate, and there were all kinds of people there. My first experiences of rowing were similar to the really daydream, I want to say, or fantasy of seeing that poster, in that it was just magical. Because getting up in the morning and it's quiet and the birds are out or it's slightly windy, and like you're working collectively, that's the spirit of what the magic was that you're thinking when you're looking at the poster. And it was great because we worked every component of being able to do it. We sanded the boat that we were going to row in. So there was all this process. And I think growing up being a process family in a way, I love that. You learn to clean your room. So this whole process of taking care of what it is you're going to experience, I loved, including taking care of each other. We cared about one another. it was just all part of this ritual of growth. So it was magic all the way through.
What if you had not rowed at Cal? What would your college experience have been like?
Oh, I can't even imagine. I literally can't imagine. It was just such a blessing. It's truly been the blessing of my life.
So I went to the recruiting meeting and watched that Symphony in Motion Pocock film, and Dag and Dean Wright were up there, and there we all were in some auditorium, in some classroom, and I signed up, and instantly was connected to it. It was, I remember, it was just, finally I found what I was looking for. In the fall, I came back and I laid my sweatshirt, this guy. I remember throwing that on their bed, going, I'm on the team. It must have been when I made the team. And I was just proud. The fire trail was the place. I kind of remember the turn. It was past the connector. And that was the first place where, for whatever reason, I thought maybe I could try out for the Olympics.
You were on the crew team, if you think about it, September to June. That's it.
I know. I don't know. It's kind of amazing. I'm so lucky. The inside concentric circle is not one person. It's like 8 people that are, true lifelong friends. But that core, the core group is large, and through the hard things in life and the things to celebrate, weddings and achievements and children and all that stuff. Physically and psychically, there's this little, chorus of friends that we hover for each other. We're always like off our shoulders. That has really been the greatest gift of this whole thing, that, now 45 years later or whatever it is, that all remains.
By the time I was a sophomore in high school, I was a national champion, and I worked and I rowed at Lake Merritt, coxed at Lake Merritt. And I had met Steve Gladstone in 1973 when he came to coach Cal. When they announced that there was going to be an Olympic women's rowing team in 76, I asked him what it would take to get an invite. His advice to me was get into a college program.
Okay, so what year did you start at Cal?
Fall of 77. I was aware that they had a women's crew team, and I was aware that they had a men's crew team, but I didn't realize until I actually got there how segregated it was. I didn't realize that there wasn't a damn bathroom at the women's boathouse. There wasn't any water. I don't even believe there was electricity. Was there electricity there?
At the Briones Boathouse?
Yeah.
No.
Or was it? Yeah, because it was like, I remember bringing a flashlight. Dag didn't want anybody to assume that they had a seat. I hoped I didn't come in with a chip on my shoulders, but maybe I did. I certainly didn't think that I shouldn't have to earn it, but it was a blow to my ego when the varsity boat was announced and I wasn't in it.
Tell me about your very first race rowing for Cal as the coxswain of the JV team.
It was in the Crew Classic. We just stealthily came up and won.
Is that like your best moment at Cal?
It was one of the best, yeah. Something happened to that boat. Something in the middle of the race when I said, we're ahead. And something switched in the boat. And all of a sudden, it just kind of picked up and moved. That race taught me that if you can connect with the people in your boat, you might be able to impact their ability to believe in themselves. and their ability to do things that they never thought they could do.
Did you try out for the national team in 1978?
I was not extended an invitation. And I went back to Steve that summer and I said, what did I do wrong? I remember sitting on his deck at his house having this conversation. And I'm like, what do I have to do? And he said, you're going to have to do something to stand out, because coaches aren't naturally looking to invite coxswains. They don't necessarily know what it is you can offer. And that's when we started discussing whether or not I should come to the men's team. So I did 1 year with the women, and then I moved over to the men. There's never been a woman at Cal as a coxswain that's ever made a varsity team. There were guys who refused to get in a boat with me. And I didn't know this until later. Steve had asked all 24 guys, so first, second, and third varsity, if you could choose your coxswain, who would it be? All the guys in that varsity boat had actually ranked me as their first choice. We won everything. Beat Washington on the Montlake Cut decidedly. After I think a 14-year dry season, we went to Henley. I was the first woman to race in the Grand Challenge Cup. It was one of the most pivotal learning experiences for me. I get to speak to a lot of girls and women. And one thing I tell them is that if you can get into competitive sports, the takeaways from competitive sports will change your life. Being a good teammate, time management, listening, observing, giving good constructive feedback, developing others. These are all skills that you learn no matter what sport you're in. While we have made great strides and inroads, and I won't take that away. I won't take Title IX away, and I won't take a lot of the things away that have happened. But I would hope that 50 years from now, I wouldn't have to say to women, go out for sport, because you're not going to be allowed to develop the things that you need to be a leader without sport. But if it's still like that in 50 years, I think my advice would be, don't let any sporting opportunity go wasted. And then when you become successful, don't turn your back on other women. Give them the same opportunities that you got, or give them more opportunities than you got.
What does matter is that Cal's, the women's crew culture and identity be cherished and cultivated and taken care of for the next generation. It's a first-rate, nationally ranked athletic program of high achievement that also is full of first-rate, lovely, wonderful people. It is sort of this bonus surprise of it's like, oh, I thought, Roy and Cal would be great, and I'd, get a sweatshirt and, life would go on, instead of life being enhanced and expanded and improved and just getting so much out of it because of the people.
At a big university like a Cal, you could be kind of lost in this sea of people, but you had this family that you saw every day, and that coach saw you every day. And you have this family within this huge institution that gives you a grounding and there are people who know if you're doing okay or know if you need to be bolstered up.
Even though we who were first get that kind of, that birthday candle, the people that came after and kept it going are so important. It hasn't stopped, and it hasn't stopped because so many generations now of women have kept rowing and stayed with it and contributed back to it. And I admire that so much. It's lovely. And so I want to say that the people that are now rowing have my admiration and appreciation, because it's alive still. It didn't stop. They kept it alive.
Thank you to moms and daughters and people, senior to us, who saw what Title IX could do. And not just for us, but for people who didn't have the support systems that we had to get to Cal, that would actually change the landscape and make college more available to people. It definitely impacts so many women and so many women. And the educational opportunity, kind of back to hearkening to what I say, I think Elise had the same, and all these women have the same ability to be there with great minds. You got to live with great minds to understand how you can take things to different levels. It's part of the responsibility, pick some causes, stay involved. It's not just about you. It's not just about you being in a good spot. It's about helping other people getting to be in a better spot, and for the collective good. So, no, I still live that, and I am instilling that still in our children. Yeah.